Today we shall tour lore of the mortal engine universe and see how the traction era, with the establishment of municipal Darwinism, the key events and the conflicts, along with understanding the people and the state of Earth. So like and subscribe, grab a snack or two, and come with me on another grand tour. Enjoy. This timeline includes the Black Centuries, a desolate period of environmental collapse, and the rise of strange, short-lived civilizations. Central to the narrative is the transition to the traction era, where mobile cities like London began roaming the earth under the ideology of municipal Darwinism. Key figures such as Fever Crumb and Nicola Quirkus are highlighted for their roles in rediscovering ancient technology and mobilizing the first moving strongholds. The sources also provide extensive information on stalkers, which are undead soldiers resurrected through cybernetic stalker brains to serve as unfeeling warriors. Notably, the character Shrike serves as a bridge between eras, evolving from a human named Kit Solent into a legendary killing machine and historical recorder. Nicholas Quirk, originally named Nicola Quirkus, was a historically significant northern nomad leader who is worshipped as a deity by the people of London because he is credited with creating the first traction city and initiating the traction era. Identity and rise to power. Historically, Nicola Quirkus was a tactically brilliant land admiral of a nomad empire known as the Movement. Before his ascent in London, he was a warlord known for looting the cities of the Birkenmark and fending off the Suomi people at the Hill of Skulls. Quirkus arrived in London during a period of turmoil aboard his traction fortress, a precursor to moving cities, and seized control of the settlement by defeating the acting mayor, Ted Swiney, in a fistfight. Following this victory, he promoted the Order of Engineers to the status of a guild and utilized their skills to mobilize the entire city. He intended to use the motorized London not merely for relocation, but as a weapon to destroy his nomad enemies, a philosophy that evolved into municipal Darwinism. Under his command, the newly mobilized London defeated rival nomad alliances and consumed their strongholds, triggering a 40-year conflict known as the Weald War. Deification and worship. In the millennia following his death in 512 TE, Quirkus became revered as a god under the anglicized name Nicholas Quirk. He is worshipped for the following reasons. Creator of the age. He is effectively responsible for the entire traction era, as his mobilization of London prompted other cities to follow suit. Cultural veneration. His status is so high that Londoners celebrate a festival called Quirkimas, a parody of Christmas. And citizens, such as Tom Natsworthy, frequently swear by his name. Misattributed genius. While he is worshipped for devising the concept of the traction city, this is a historical misconception. The technology was actually invented by the Scriven king Auric Godshock and relayed to Quirkus by Godshock's daughter Wavy. A statue of Quirk stands near the London Museum in the later traction era, commemorating him as the father of their civilization. Nomad wars, often synonymous with the Weald War, were a pivotal series of conflicts that marked the transition from the Black Centuries to the traction era. While the Lazarus Brigade was an elite unit of resurrected soldiers employed by the northern nomads during these conflicts. The Nomad Wars, the Weald War. The Nomad Wars, also referred to as the Weald War or the 40 Years' War, lasted approximately from 480 to 520 TE. This era was characterized by the motorization of static settlements and the rise of the first traction cities. Origins. In the late Black Centuries, nomad empires in Europe began using massive traction fortresses, large wheeled or tracked castles drawn by beasts or slaves, to roam the land. Eventually, these empires perfected internal combustion engines, motorizing their fortresses and sparking conflicts over resources and fuel in the dwindling space between the demotorized zones and the expanding ice wastes. Escalation. The conflict escalated significantly when Nicola Quirkus, Nicholas Quirk, and his nomad army, the Movement, seized control of London. Quirkus utilized the Order of Engineers to mobilize London, not just for travel, but as a weapon to destroy his enemies. Key battles. Hollow Bullet Battle of Three Dry Ships, a decisive engagement where the newly mobilized London decimated nomad forces, destroying their landships and traction fortresses with superior weaponry. Hollow Bullet The outcome. The wars concluded with the Diet of ULP in 520 TE, a treaty that established the principles of municipal Darwinism. This code dictated that cities would eat other cities rather than attacking populations directly, ushering in the golden age of traction. The Lazarus Brigade. The Lazarus Brigade was a specific, feared unit of stalkers within the northern nomad armies. Composition. They were resurrected men, dead soldiers brought back to life using old tech machines wired into their nervous systems. These soldiers were stripped of their emotions and memories, armored, and fitted with weapons such as claws. Naming convention. The brigade was named after the biblical figure Lazarus, who was raised from the dead. Its members were traditionally named after birds. Known members included Corvus, Lammergeier, and the infamous Shrike. Role in the wars: the Lazarus Brigade served the nomad empires as warriors and escorts. For example, during the events leading up to London's mobilization, 2 stalkers from the Lazarus Brigade escorted Fevercrum and the body of Kit Solent, who would later be resurrected as Shrike, to meet Nicola Quercus. Legacy: while most stalkers and nomad armies were destroyed or became obsolete as traction cities rose to power, Shrike survived as the last remaining member of the Lazarus Brigade into the later traction era. Technological context: the wars were defined by a rapid evolution of technology. Traction fortresses: the precursors to traction cities, these were heavily armored, mobile castles used by nomad empires like the Movement and the Scriven. Landships: large armored vehicles used for combat by the nomads, which were eventually scavenged to help build London. Stalkers: while the ancients originally designed remembering machines to preserve consciousness, the nomad empires adapted this technology to create ruthless, unfeeling soldiers for the war effort. The warriors of the Lazarus Brigade were resurrected through a macabre process involving the integration of old tech machinery into human corpses, transforming them into stalkers, also known as resurrected men or Jaegers. The creation of these soldiers involved extensive surgical and mechanical modification. Physical modification: the northern nomad empires created the Lazarus Brigade by scavenging the bodies of fallen warriors from battlefields. The resurrection process involved hollowing out these corpses to remove unnecessary internal organs. To sustain the remaining organic tissue and generate energy, artificial organs were installed. The bodies were then grafted with a metal carapace for armor and fitted with integrated weaponry, most notably extendable claws or finger knives. Neurological resurrection: the core of the resurrection lay in the nervous system. Old tech machines were wired directly into the corpse's nerves to reanimate the body. This process relied on a device known as a stalker brain. Origin of the technology: this technology was originally developed by the ancients, predating the traction era, to download and store human consciousness in remembering machines to survive the 60-minute war. Weaponization: the nomad empires adapted this technology to create soldiers rather than historians. Instead of preserving the original personality, the nomad implants contained basic minds programmed for obedience and killing, effectively suppressing the original person's memories and emotions. Specifics of the Lazarus Brigade: the Lazarus Brigade was an elite unit of these stalkers employed by the northern nomads. Its members, who were traditionally named after birds, such as Shrike, Corvus, and Lammergeier, utilized rare, ancient stalker brains. For example, the stalker Shrike was created when the body of the archaeologist Kit Solent was used to host an ancient stalker brain salvaged from a temple of remembering machines. This specific type of brain made Shrike a unique entity capable of eventually accessing his past memories, unlike later, cruder stalkers manufactured by London engineers. The Battle of 3 Dry Ships was a decisive engagement that marked the beginning of the Wheeled War, also known as the Nomad Wars, around 480 TE. It served as the baptism of fire for London as a traction city and solidified the dominance of the traction era. Prelude and sabotage: the conflict was precipitated by a sabotage event that severely weakened the Movement, Nicola Quercus's nomad empire. Borglum's Carnival of Knives, seeking revenge, used a paperboy to ignite the magazines of the Movement's traction fortress, Jotengard. This explosion killed the nomad leader Rufus Raven and destroyed or crippled many of the Movement's landships. The engagement with their forces depleted, the Movement made a desperate stand at the town of 3 Dry Ships to stall the opposing nomad empires long enough for London to finish its conversion into a mobile city. The battle resulted in heavy casualties. While the Movement possessed superior landships, they lacked reserves, allowing the nomad forces to punch holes in their defensive lines. Stalkers: both sides utilized stalkers, like the Lazarus Brigade discussed earlier, which were destroyed using electric weaponry during the clash. The rout: around noon, the Movement's defenses broke. Key figures like Captain Andringa were badly wounded, and the Movement's forces began to rout as the Nomad Alliance pressed their final attack. London's arrival and victory: the tide of the battle turned instantly with the arrival of London, which had just completed its mobilization. No longer a static settlement, the city had been reconfigured for war. Total decimation: the newly motorized London utilized heavy cannons and its sheer mass to decimate the nomad forces, destroying their landships and traction fortresses. Casualties: the nomad rebellion was crushed. Carn Morvish and most nomad leaders were slain, while Clooney Morvish was severely wounded by a malfunctioning Tesla weapon. Aftermath: following the victory, London scavenged the ruined ships of its enemies to grow the city, effectively beginning the practice of municipal Darwinism even before it was formally codified at the Diet of ULP decades later. The battle vindicated Nicola Quirkis's vision of the city as a weapon, triggering the second traction boom as other cities rushed to mobilize.